This is the Buffett Mindset channel where we practice patience and calm wealth building daily. If you enjoy these types of videos, consider liking and subscribing. This will mean a lot to the channel. When you keep starting over, it not because life is cruel, it because you're still living a man who negotiates with his lesser self. You build momentum, then allow comfort to seduce you back into sleep. You rise with conviction, then let small distractions tear it apart. The truth is, every restart begins not with failure, but with forgetting. Forgetting who you said you would be, forgetting the standard you swore to uphold. Discipline isn't something you do, it's something you become. Until you build that identity, you'll keep losing progress to the same old patterns dressed in new excuses. Every man must face this truth at least once. The hardest part of change is not beginning, it's staying. You've been told to focus on goals, but goals are powerless without identity. You can set a goal to rise at dawn, but if you still identify the man who sleeps in, you'll hit snooze again tomorrow. You can man a diet, but if you still believe you're the type who always falls off, your subconscious will obey that belief until it becomes your reality. The cycle doesn't break with motivation, it breaks with transformation. You must become incompatible with your old life. You must speak to your own mind with authority and burn the bridge back to comfort. The man who keeps his exit route open will always retreat, but the one who seals the door behind him, he advances because he has no choice. Understand this, your mind is not your enemy. It's a tool, one that obeys repetition more than reason. If you keep repeating hesitation, it memorize hesitation. If you keep saying, I'll start again Monday, it'll treat every effort as temporary. You're training your subconscious every day, and it not listening to your intentions, it watching your actions. That's why you don't need new promises. You need new proof. You need to start stacking evidence that you are not the man who quits. Every time you follow through, even in silence, even when no one notices, your subconscious takes note. And when it finally believes you're serious, when you become unstoppable. You keep starting over because you chase feelings instead of forming laws. Feelings fade, laws stay. When the disciplined man wakes up tired, he doesn't negotiate. His law says, I rise. When his mind says, skip the gym, his law says, we move. When the world tells him it's hopeless, his law says, we build anyway. This is how consistency is forged, not by inspiration, but by law. Until your standards become non-negotiable, your results will always fluctuate. So stop trying to feel ready. Start acting like a man bound by code. Decide what your law is and enforce it daily, especially when emotion rebels. That transformation lives in the defiance of feeling. You think you need motivation, you don't. You need motion. The men who conquer the world are not the ones who wait for clarity. They're the ones who act in the fog. They understand that momentum reveals what motivation never will, the truth of who they are. Every time you move when you don't feel like it, you chip away at the version of you that hesitates. You sculpt your identity with every small decision. The day you start treating each choice as a declaration, you stop starting over. Because you're no longer reacting to life, you're leading it. The secret isn't to get everything right, to refuse to stop. Your environment is the silent architect of your downfall or your rise. You can't grow in soil that keeps feeding your weakness. The people you listen to, the habits you keep, the noise you allow, they write the script of your next relapse. The man who wants to stop starting over must begin with subtraction. Cut out the voices that excuse mediocrity. Remove the triggers that tempt delay. You cannot out-discipline a corrupt environment. Even the strongest seed dies in toxic soil. So clean it, protect it, guard your focus that treasure, because it is. 1 hour of deep focus will build more empire than a week of half-hearted effort. You're not inconsistent because you lack willpower. You're inconsistent because you lack structure. Every day your habits are voting for your identity. Your mind is not judging you by what you want, it's judging you by what you repeatedly do. If you keep breaking promises to yourself, it stops taking you seriously. But if you start keeping even the smallest ones, it rebuilds trust. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You just need to prove daily that you mean what you say. Consistency is not perfection. It's the discipline to restart instantly, not eventually. You fall, you rise, you drift, you correct, you don't quit, you recalibrate. Listen, the cycle ends the moment you stop asking for motivation and start demanding obedience from yourself. You don't wait for the perfect page, you enforce the one you have. You don't pray for easy days. You prepare for hard ones. You don't wish for better moods, you build better systems. The greatest men in history were not superhuman. They were simply consistent. They did what others avoided. They made discipline their faith, repetition their altar, and endurance their language. You want to change your life? Then master the mundane. Wake, work, train, repeat, not for a week, not for a month, but until it becomes your nature. One day, when you stop chasing the thrill of new beginnings and start falling in love with repetition, everything will change. You will realize that mastery is not built on excitement, but on boredom conquered. The man who can do the same task with excellence for years without losing focus becomes immortal in his craft. That's the secret they don't tell you. The grind doesn't rake you, it reveals you. Every repetition chisels away the doubt until all that theft is truth. The man who finishes is the man who decided long gone that quitting was not an option. So from this day forward, decide that the next time your mind whispers, let's start again tomorrow, you answer, we finished today. Decide that you not let the comfort of relapse destroy the honor of your progress. Decide that this is the last beginning, because from now on, you do not start, you continue. You don't rebuild momentum, you keep it. You don't wait for change, you are change. The man who refuses to start over again becomes the man who never stops. The reason you keep starting over, my friend, is because you keep trying to change your life without first changing who's running it. You think progress begins with action, but it begins with identity. You've tried to fix your habits, your routines, your motivation, but the one thing you've never rebuilt is the man behind them. You've built plans from willpower, not from law. And that's why you keep falling, not because you're incapable, but because you're using temporary strength for a permanent transformation. You cannot conquer your future with the same mind that created your past. Until you rebuild the man in the mirror, you'll always end up at zero again. See, the truth is simple. You don't fail as life is hard. You fail because you forget why you started. You build momentum, then comfort whispers your name and you answer. You promise yourself that next time will be different, but you keep dragging the same identity into every new beginning. You can't plant discipline in soil that still believes in excuses. You can't build consistency in a mind that still negotiates with weakness. Until you kill the part of you that still bargains with failure, you remain at war with yourself. This isn't about motivation anymore. This is about declaration. You fail because you forget why you started. You build momentum, then comfort whispers your name and you answer. You promise yourself that next time will be different, but you keep dragging the same identity into every new beginning. You can't plant discipline in soil that still believes in excuses. You can't build consistency in a mind that still negotiates with weakness. Until you kill the part of you that still bargains with failure, you remain at war with yourself. This isn't about motivation anymore. This is about declaration. The man who keeps starting over is the man who has not yet drawn his line in the sand. The line once drawn cannot move. It's where your old life ends and your new one begins. It's where the part of you that says tomorrow dies and the part that says morn is born. Most men never draw that line. They dabble in change, flirt with discipline, but never commit to its law. But law is the only thing that transforms. Emotion shifts, passion fades, but law, the rule you carve into your soul, stays. That's what the great ones understood. Buffett didn't invest because it felt good. He invested because it was the rule. He trained his mind to obey logic, not emotion. You must do the same. Emotion will always seek comfort. Logic, discipline, law, they seek victory. Your restarts are not failure. They are evidence that your identity is not yet settled. The mind always returns to what it believes it is. If you think of yourself as someone who tries, you will always try. If you think of yourself as someone who finishes, you will finish, no matter what. That's why you must stop saying things like, I'm working on it, or I'm getting better. You are programming your subconscious to keep you in progress, never completion. Instead, speak final I am the man who does what he says. I am the man who finishes. The mind doesn't obey wishes, it obeys words. Speak them until they become your new truth. And then what you must understand, the reason you always return to zero isn't that you lost discipline, it's that you lost alignment. You're trying to operate with a divided mind. One part of you wants progress, another part clings to comfort. One part dreams of greatness, another part defends mediocre. You two led procrastination, but it really identity conflict. Until every part of you agrees on who you are, your actions will always sabotage themselves. The day you yank agreement within yourself, when your thoughts, words, and actions move as one, that's the day the cycle dies. You'll never start over again because you'll have nowhere to return to. And another truth most men won't admit. They secretly love restarting. It gives them a rush. It feels they control the time. I'll do it better. It a hit of false hope. But hope is a drug that destroys the discipline. You don't need new hope, you need new habits. Because habits are hope made visible. The man who does what he said he'd do yesterday doesn't need to believe in tomorrow. He already owns it. And this is where most fail. They mistake excitement for execution. Excitement burns out by week 2, but execution builds momentum that never stops. Stop chasing the thrill of beginnings. Start building the power of follow-through. Hear the quiet truth: you can't keep changing yet and expect to arrive anywhere. Every restart resets your momentum. Every new bend wipes out the compound effect you've been building. The men who win, the men who actually finish, they don't restart. They adjust, they adapt, they bend, but they never rake the chain. They know that consistency isn't perfection, it's resilience. The ability to stay the course when most would start over. Because every time you start over, what you're really doing is teaching your mind that quitting is safe, that it's okay to reset instead of endure. You must unteach that reflex. You must replace it with endurance. The next time you feel that impulse, the one that says, I'll start fresh Monday, I want you to stop, take a breath, look yourself in the mirror and say, I continue today. Because that sentence alone separates men who finish from men who fantasize. Continuation is harder than restarting. It demands that you carry the weight of yesterday's failures and still move forward. But that what builds strength, that what builds character. A new beginning is easy, it's clean. Continuation is messy, it's human. But that where greatness lives, not in clean slates, but in dirty persistence. Let it tell you something else. Every time you keep going when it would have been easier to start over, you deposit strength into your future self. You're training him to endure storms without retreating. That's what real progress is. Not more intensity, but more endurance. Not more hype, but more habits. That's how you finally end the cycle. That's how you become the man who finished. You no longer treat failure as an excuse to begin again. You treat it as a reminder to push harder. You use every setback as proof that you're still in motion, that the system is working. The man who masters this never starts over. He just grows stronger with every fall. And when you finally live this way, something strange happens. The noise fades, the doubt disappears, the constant search for motivation ends because you reload. It was never about motivation at all. It was about integrity. Doing what you said you'd do, not because it's exciting, not because it feels good, but because it's who you are. You become a man whose word is law. And once your word becomes law, your life becomes order. And order breeds peace, wealth, power, freedom, the things that used to seem impossible. That when you stop starting over, because you finally understand, discipline isn't about forcing yourself to do what you hate. It's about becoming the man who no longer needs to be forced. When a man finally breaks the curse of starting over, it doesn't happen with fireworks or fanfare. It happens in silence. It happens when he looks in the mirror one morning and decides he's done lying to himself. He's done calling laziness rest. He's done calling excuse reasons. He's done calling inconsistency burnout. He stops romanticizing the idea of fresh starts and begins worshiping the grind of continuation. He realizes he doesn't need to become a new man. He just needs to stop abandoning the one he's been building. That freedom begins in the quiet choice to stay the course when the world offers him 1,000 exits. You see, consistency isn't something that happens to you. It's something you build brick by painful brick until it becomes your foundation. Every time you start over, you reinforce the lie that you need a restart to be worthy again. That's what keeps most men trapped in cycles of guilt. They mistake failure for finality, but failure isn't the end. It's a checkpoint. It's life testing your seriousness. The man who quits says, maybe next year. The man who continues says, not done yet. That difference, that seed of a mastery. The most disciplined people in the world aren't those who never fail. They're the ones who stop letting failure reset their momentum. They simply refuse to go back to zero. They walk through hell without rebuilding the map every time. You want to know why the great ones seem unstoppable? It's not because they never fall, it's because they never lose motion. They fail forward. They stumble and stride. They don't press restart, they press repeat. Over and over. The repetitions may be imperfect, ugly, incomplete, but they continue. And over time, that continuation compounds. It becomes muscle memory. The habit of progress becomes their identity. And once progress becomes identity, starting over becomes impossible because there is no old self left to return to. Most men live their lives waiting for a second wind, magical surge of energy that to fix everything. But the truth is, the second wind only appears when you stop expecting it.
You run into exhaustion, from staying when the thrill dies, from showing up on the days that feel pointless, that the paradox of mastery, progress doesn't reward passion, rewards endurance. Anyone can sprint in excitement, but walking every day through boredom, through resistance, through silence, that's where the real transformation takes root. The world will never see that process, but it did feel its result. There a truth Warren Buffett once hinted at without saying outright. Compound doesn't only apply to money, it applies to you. Every small act of discipline compounds into confidence. Every kept promise adds interest to your integrity. Every day you stay in motion builds equity in your identity. But the catch, just as compound interest grows exponentially, so does compound hesitation. Every time you stop, restart, and delay, you erase weeks of spiritual interest. That's why it feels like you're running in place. You are. You keep withdrawing from your future before it has time to pour out. If you could see your consistency as currency, you'd never skip again. You'd treat each day like a deposit into your destiny. That's what separates the builders from the believers. Builders understand that success isn't owed or accrued. They don't check progress every morning. They work. They know the scoreboard takes care of itself if the system stays running. The man who checks too often is a man who doubts too much. The one who trusts his process doesn't need to look up. He knows he's rising. You need to stop falling in love with beginnings. Beginnings are cheap. They're shiny. They feel powerful because they're untested. But untested promises are like glass beautiful until pressure shatters them. You want something real? Fall in love with the middle, the grind, the part where nobody claps, the part where your work feels invisible, because that where everything real is built. That where your will gets tempered into steel. Every legend you admire was forged in the monotony you keep running from. The cycle of starting over only ends when you learn to stay through the boredom. That the test. The world doesn't destroy dreamers with failure, it destroys them with monotony. It waits until the thrill fades, then whispers, this isn't working. But that's the moment you must double down. When it quiet, when it dull, when it heavy, that where greatness hides. You won't feel the transformation day by day, but one day you'll look back and realize you've become unrecognizable. That's the reward for the man who refuses to restart. Every time you feel the urge to give up, understand that you're not tired of the goal, you're tired of your doubt. You're tired of the mental noise that says it's not worth it. But silence doesn't come from stopping, it comes from finishing. There is peace on the other side of completion that you never know if you keep resetting. Finish something, anything. Finish small, finish tired, finish unseen, but finish. Because finishing teaches your mind something quitting never can, that it's safe to flow through. Once your mind learns that truth, you will no longer crave new beginnings, you'll crave continuation. And when that day comes, something inside you will shift. You'll stop seeking permission to act. You'll stop needing motivation. You'll start moving because that's simply what you do. You'll stop measuring your potential by what you could start and start measuring it by what you can sustain. That when you'll become dangerous because you won't rely on emotion anymore. You'll rely on law. You'll build in silence while others reset in noise. You'll live in motion while others talk about someday. So, from this point forward, let this be your command. I will not start over again. I will not throw away progress because it isn't perfect.
I will not chase motivation like a gambler chasing luck. I will build. I will continue. I will stay. And one day, when the world wonders how you became so steady, you'll smile because you'll know the truth. You stopped starting over and you started becoming. The truth that to finally free you is simple. You do not need another laid, another morning routine, another system or strategy. You need to become the kind of man who honors his word, heed law. You don't break promises to yourself, feel the emotion. You keep them down so that who you are, you move whether you feel like it or not because your standards aren't up for debate. The reason you keep starting over is because you've treated your old word like a suggestion. You say you'll rise early, then you don't. You say you'll train, and then you skip. You say you'll focus, then you scroll. Every broken word chips away at your self-trust until your mind stops believing you. The greatest power you will hold isn't money or talent or luck. It's the credibility you have with yourself. Without it, every goal will crumble no matter how noble the intent. The man who finishes is not the man who never fails. He's the man who never betrays his own law. Every time you go through your identity tight-head, it stops leaking confidence. It becomes sealed in certainty. That's why most men feel stuck. They leak self-trust. They act, then quit, then start again. They train their mind to expect inconsistency. But the man who stops breaking his word begins to evolve faster than anyone else. Starts believing his own commands. Starts expecting victory. When he says, I'll do it, his mind obeys, because it knows he means it. That's how you stop restarting. You build a reputation with yourself that cannot be questioned. You must also understand that your progress will not feel like progress. It'll feel like resistance. Every great man who built something of value, from Buffett with his compound investments to the namely farmer tilling dry soil, they learned the same law. The moment it feels dull is the moment it's working. The mind craves novelty, mastery, demands repetition. The farmer who quits because the soil looks the same every day never reaps a harvest. The man who keeps showing up when there's no sign of growth, who keeps watering the invisible seed, that's the one who wakes up to a field of gold. So don't confuse boredom with failure. It's the quiet signal that your roots are taking hold. Every time you restart, you uproot the seed before it can grow. You trade long-term growth for short-term relief. That relief feels good in the moment. It gives you the illusion of a fresh start, a clean slate, but it kills everything you've built beneath the surface. You can't replant discipline every week and expect it to grow into strength. You must stay long enough for the roots to harden. Even when you can't see results, even when nobody notices, that when the compound effect takes over, invisibly, silently, faithfully, your job is not to control the outcome. Your job is to show up, but if the outcome is already guaranteed. And I'll tell you a secret, every man who truly transcends mediocrity has at least one invisible ritual that anchors his life. It's not glamorous, it's not exciting, but it's unbreakable. Buffett reads for hours every day, not when he feels like it, every day. Jocko wakes at 4:30, not when convenient, every day. Kobe shot 1,000 free throws before breakfast, every day. These men did not rely on passion, they relied on ritual. And that ritual rewired their entire identity. You have that same power. Choose one ritual, just one, and swear by it. Don't move, don't modify it, don't justify it. Make it sacred. That act of discipline will rebuild your foundation faster than 1,000 goals of put. It's not the complexity of the dare that changes your life, it's the consistency of your execution. The man who acts simply daily wins. The man who plans deeply but inconsistently loses. Life does not reward the sophisticated, it rewards the consistent. Don't wait for a perfect schedule. Don't design the ultimate system. Just pick something difficult, something real, and do it every day until it becomes part of your nature. Once you master that, the rest of your life will begin to organize itself around your new identity, because everything follows the man who knows where he's going. Let it be blunt. You don't have a discipline problem, you have a decision problem. You haven't decided to commit fully. You still leave back doors open in your mind, tiny exits for your comfort to crawl back through when things get hard. Maybe I'll try again next week. Maybe I'll take a rate. Maybe this isn't working. You disguise those exits self-compassion, but they're self-sabotage in disguise. If you want to stop starting over, burn those exits. Remove the option to quit. turns discipline from a choice into a necessity. The mind doesn't act to waste energy deciding between options. Remove the options, and you'll find energy you never knew you had. Now let me tell you what will happen when you truly decide. The world will test you immediately. Everything that can distract you will show up at once. The old friends who waste your time will text you. The habits you thought you'd outgrown will whisper in. The fatigue, the doubt, the temptation to delay, they'll all come flooding back. Not because you're cursed, but because the universe tests conviction. It asking, do you really mean it this time? Most fail that because they mistake the test for a sign they're not ready. But it's the opposite. Resistance is proof of readiness. It appears to confirm that your old life is dying and all death feels like discomfort. But you are not dying, you are evolving. So when that test comes, and until, stand still, don't react, don't flinch, don't start over. Endure the storm and until pass. It always passes. What remains afterward is strength, the kind of quiet, unshakable strength that becomes your identity. When you reach that point, you won't even recognize the man who used to quit. You'll laugh at the old patterns. You'll see how small they were compared to what you've become. You'll realize that freedom doesn't come from starting over, it comes from staying when it's hardest. That how the chain breaks, that how the new life bends, not with another beginning, but with endurance. Because in the end, mastery isn't about doing more, it's about doing longer. It's the patience to outlast doubt, the faith to outlive failure, the strength to keep moving without applause. When you can live like that, when your word and your will finally become one, the cycle of starting over ends for good. You will have graduated from the beginner game. You will have entered the realm of the few, the builders, the finishers, the men of law. And once you become one of them, the world no longer tests you, it trusts you. There comes a moment in every man's life when he finally realizes that all the motivation in the world means nothing if he still doubts his own command. You can fill your walls with quotes, your phone with reminders, your mind with dreams. But if the voice in your head doesn't carry authority, your actions they never obey. The problem isn't that you don't know what to do. You've known for years. The problem is that your mind has learned it doesn't have to listen to you. You've trained it to treat your decisions like suggestions. You say, I'll wake up early, but you hit snooze. You say, I'll start tomorrow, but you don't. You say, I'll finish this, but you never do. And so your mind stops taking you seriously. Every command ignored weak your credibility. And without credibility, discipline dies. If you want to stop starting over, you must rebuild your authority. You must speak to yourself the way a general speaks to his army, with law, not with suggestion. When a general gives a command, there is no debate, no delay, no negotiation. The order is followed. That is the kind of respect you must regain from your mind. You must make your word sacred again, because your word is the architect of your reality. If your word is weak, your life will be too. Everything you build will crumble, but the foundation of your being, the trust between your thought and your action, will be rotten. So starting today, every time you say something, mean it. Every time you commit, complete it. Even the small things, especially the small things, because the small promises are what rebuild the muscle of integrity.
Think about it. When you tell yourself, I'll clean this desk, and you do, it's not about the desk. It's about training your subconscious to believe that your commands are final. When you say, I'll work out, and you follow through, it's not about the body. It's about identity. You are reminding yourself that your word creates worlds. That the true secret of the most successful men, they don't just command, they declare. Their words hold weight. Their thoughts carry order. The universe responds not because they're lucky, but because they speak with authority born of consistency. Every promise kept adds gravity to their presence. Every commitment fulfilled strengthens their command. You're the truth nobody tells you cannot build an extraordinary life while tolerating ordinary discipline. You cannot reach greatness while giving yourself permission to break small rules. The man who cuts corners when no one watching will always end them circling the same mountain of mediocrity. You want to rise? Stop negotiating. Stop giving your comfort a vote in your decisions. Stop treating your weakness like a roommate instead of an intruder. You have one job, to make your word law, to turn every decision into decree.
To stop letting feelings overrule the empire you were sent to build. There's a reason Buffett said, chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken. He wasn't talking about dull financial habits. He was talking about mental ones. You build chains with every choice. The question is, are they chains of strength or chains of surrender? Every time you act on your word, you forge a link of power. Every time you delay, you forge a link of weakness. And those links compound until they form the system that either imprisons you or propels you. That's why the man who keeps starting over always feels exhausted. He's dragging a chain made of broken promises. But the man who keeps going feels light because his chain is made of law that pulls him forward instead of down. Let's get one thing clear, forcing yourself to act isn't punishment, it's power. It's how you train your mind to understand that you are the master, not the other way around. The body may resist, the emotions may why, but the command stands. And with each act of obedience, you reclaim another inch of your kingdom. At first it feels small. One workout completed, one task done, one goal honored. But these are not random moments, they are bricks. Lay enough of them, and one day you'll wake up standing inside a fortress of your own creation. That's what unstoppable men do. They build their fortress one action at a time until no storm can shake them. Most men wait for the right feeling before they move. But the men who rise understand that action is what creates feeling. You don't act because you feel motivated. You feel motivated because you act. Waiting for inspiration is the luxury of the untrained. The trained man moves regardless. His feelings flow his will, not the other way around. He doesn't ask, "Do I feel ready?" He asks, "Is it time?" If the answer is yes, he moves. No debate, no delay, no hesitation. Because he understands that hesitation is the thief of destiny. It steals silently. You don't feel the loss right away, but look back after a decade and you'll see what hesitation cost you. Entire dreams, entire seasons, entire lives. There is only one cure for hesitation: decision, real decision. Not the kind that lives in your head, but the kind that burns bridges, the kind that removes retreat, the kind that says, "This is who I am now." That kind of decision doesn't leave room for relapse. It doesn't need motivation because it creates momentum. Every true decision carries within it the power to change everything because it kills the old identity. That's the difference between the man who keeps starting over and the man who ascends. The first makes choices, the second makes commitments. The first sucks for options, the second sucks for order. You see, every time you start over, you're not beginning fresh. You're confirming to your subconscious that failure is normal, that giving up is allowed. But when you commit fully, when you stay in motion even after you fail, you teach your mind that recovery is normal, not retreat. And that is as you rewire yourself for greatness. You don't eliminate mistakes, you outgrow them. You don't erase the past, you replace it with proof. Every day you re-up, every hour you act in alignment with your law, your mind rewrites your code. Stop seeing failure as a reason to quit and start seeing it a reason to double down. That's how you transform the loop into a ladder. So from this moment forward, stop saying, "I'll start again." Say, "I continue." Say it every day. Whisper it when you're tired. Growl it when you doubt. Breathe it when you fail. I continue. That sentence alone supposes those who dream from those who build. Because the truth is, success isn't reserved for the gifted. It's reserved for the consistent. It's not for those who start strong. It's for those who finish silently. That's how you end the cycle of starting over, becoming the man who no longer negotiates with his own law. The man who continues does not chase excitement. He chases alignment. He no longer needs to be hyped to act, because action itself has become his nature. He's not addicted to the spark of new beginnings. He's addicted to the gravity of consistency. He has learned that freedom doesn't come from feeling inspired. It comes from keeping order within himself. You can always tell when a man has crossed this threshold. He walks differently. There's no panic in his pace, no tremor in his tone. His words are simple, but they carry weight. His discipline is quiet, but it moves mountains. Because he's not performing, he's obeying. He no longer identifies with effort. Effort has become him. That is what true self-command looks like when you act without needing to feel like it. Most men never experience this level of clarity because they live their entire lives as emotional slaves. They do what feels good and they avoid what feels hard. But the problem with that is simple. Life will punish you for your feelings. It will take your softness and shape it into suffering. Every man who ever built something eternal has known this. Emotions are whispers, laws are pillars, feelings change, principles remain. The man who obeys emotion will live in cycles. The man who obeys principle will live in expansion. To break the curse of starting over, you must anchor your entire existence to something deeper than emotion. You must live by a code, a personal constitution written in your own hand. It doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be long. It needs to be true. Something within. I show up no matter what. I finish what I start. I do not negotiate with comfort. I do not flee from resistance. I do not need to feel ready to begin. I am not waiting for life to calm down. I am calm in motion. That kind of code, when read and lived daily, becomes armor. It protects you from yourself. There will be days when your energy is low, when the doubt returns, when the temptation to delay starts whispering again. But that when the code saves you. You don't decide based on feeling, you execute based on law. That what discipline really is, not punishment, not denial, law. It's the quiet agreement you've made with yourself that this gets done regardless of how I feel. Every time you obey that law, your life compounds. Because compound doesn't only apply to money or skill, it applies to trust, to identity, to the spirit. Every act of obedience builds proof. Every proof builds confidence. Every confidence builds motion. When you finally grasp this, your whole relationship with struggle changes. You stop resisting difficulty and start respecting it. You stop complaining about the storm and start building sails. You stop asking, why is this so hard? And start asking, what is this shaping in me? And in that instant, life stops happening to you and starts happening for you. Because the universe always honors the man who acts with law. It did not hand you ease, it did hand you clarity. It will test your word to see if you are fit to command more. The storms you face are not punishments, they are interviews. The question they ask is the same, can I trust this man with more? You see, the reason you keep starting over isn't because you lack opportunity or willpower, because you haven't yet proven to yourself that you can be trusted with momentum. The universe won't multiply what you abandon. It won't give you more if you keep showing it. You can't keep what you have. But the moment you stay consistent through a season of doubt, the moment you keep building when it feels pointless, that when it starts giving you more, doors open, people appear, strength returns.
You stop complaining about the storm and start building sails. You stop asking, why is this so hard, and start asking, what is this shaping in me? And in that instant, life stops happening to you and starts happening for you, because the universe always honors the man who acts with law. It did not hand you ease, it did hand you clarity. It will test your word to see if you are fit to command more. The storms you face are not punishments, they are interviews. The question they ask is the same, can I trust this man with more? You see, the reason you keep starting over isn't because you lack opportunity or willpower, it's because you haven't yet proven to yourself that you can be trusted with momentum. The universe won't multiply what you abandon, it won't give you more if you keep showing it you can't keep what you have. But the moment you stay consistent through a season of doubt, the moment you keep building when it feels pointless, that when it starts giving you more, doors open, people appear, strength returns.
Not God, it was luck, but boss, you finally became dependable. Dependability is power. Most people think success is about intelligence, talent, or luck, but they are wrong. Success is about reliability. Can you be counted on? Not by others, by yourself. Can you trust your own command? Can you execute without supervision? Can you hold the line when nobody is clapping, when nobody is watching, when nobody cares? That's the test. Because once you can trust yourself, you'll never start over again. You'll simply adjust and advance. You'll move from emotion to execution, from chaos to command, from trying to being. Look at every empire, every company, every kingdom they've built. They began with a single principle. Someone refused to stop. That's it. Someone kept laying bricks long after the applause died. Someone kept sharpening their skill long after everyone else quit. Someone decided that again was not that option. And when you study those who endured, you'll notice something strange. They all stopped craving balance. They replaced balance with rhythm. Balance is static. Rhythm is alive. You don't need to balance your life. You need to synchronize it. To build your days like a song, repetition, harmony, tempo. The man who lives by rhythm never burns out. He moves with life, not against it. And the greatest rhythm of foe is this command: act, reflect, repeat. That it. You don't need 1,000 techniques or 10 productivity apps. You need rhythm. You wake up, you act, you evaluate, you adjust, and you do it again tomorrow. That how Buffett compounds wealth, that how elite athletes dominate decades, that how warriors stay undefeated, because they understand that rhythm beats motivation, rhythm beats intensity, rhythm beats burnout. The man with rhythm never starts over, he simply keeps moving through the beat. So if you've spent years starting over, chasing motivation, and breaking your own promises, it's time to rewrite your rhythm. Start with something small, one action, one law, one command. Keep it sacred, keep it daily. Build proof in silence. And as the weeks turn into months, you'll begin to notice something miraculous. Your old self begins to disappear. The man who once chased change becomes the man who embodies it. The man who once talked about what he would do becomes the man who does. That's the final transformation. You stop trying to become and start being. And when that happens, there's no more starting over, we're only continuation, momentum, command. You become the kind of man who no longer drifts, as drift is no option in your law. You've closed the exits, burned the bridges, and rewritten your code. From this day forward, say this and mean it. I will never start over again. I continue until completion. I build until mastery. I stay until it's done. Let those words add until they replace every old belief that held you hostage. Because once you live by that creed, your life will never reset again. It only expands.